What's up, fellow interneters? How are you doing? Are you live on the internet right now? 'Cause I am. What's up, everybody? What's going on? It's Friday. Are you freaking out? I hope so, 'cause I'm freaking out in a good way. Just good to be back. Good to be back on a Friday. Working all week. Probably working this weekend. Working. Staying busy. So that's all. What's up with me? What's going on with you guys? What's happening out in your neck of the woods? What's happening on a Friday? My microphone, I keep adjusting this thing, like when I'm off air to record other stuff, and then it gets weird. And as soon as I start the show, I realize, like, wait a minute, this thing's it's doing weird microphone stuff. There we go. All right, stand is figured out, and we are good to go. It's a lovely Friday out there. Let's give a shout out to the zombie drummer, Jake D663. What is this? What? Stop sending me that. Okay, sorry. The computer over here is being ridiculous and sidetracking me from what I was trying to click on. What? What is this thing doing? Why is it doing that? Stop doing that. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. Jake D663, the zombie drummer, Alyssa Bentley, Frank Dominguez, Dave's Aquariums. I don't know who was second. The chat cut it off. The chat cut off who was second. Let me know who was second. I opened up the pop-out chat, and the first and second comments disappeared. I got Alyssa. But it got cut off right there, so whoever I missed, sorry. Paula Kreinberg, Pipex, Mike Kinseth, Andrew Zudkolzarski. Man, your name's getting longer and harder to pronounce. Dave's Aquariums, Mirdul Singh, Janice Lundberg, Reaver, Michael Sarr, Rico Stan, scrolling, ADK Aquariums. Okay, all right, I tried to say hi to everybody. You know how it is. You know how it is. Sometimes I got so many names in the chat that I don't know what's going on. All right, we got our Patreon page updated here. There we go. And we got a super chat from Rumbus to bribe me to update my Patreon page. I did it. I updated it, and it looks like we've got some posts from my man, your man, Rumbust, and one post from Dave. So pretty easy on the Patreon tip today. We're going to be quickly moving through those posts, I think. The Friday show, I typically bring up the Patreon posts of the week, and it looks like we've got 3. So is it an inordinately high number? I don't know. I think it was 3 last week. And oh, no. Last week was 4, 5. Yeah. So we're gone down. We've gone down by a metric of 40%, right? Isn't that right? So if we go 5's the total, we go down to 3. We've dropped 40%, correct? I believe that's right. Brought to you by Maths. Yeah, because it's Math Friday. What's up, dude? It's Math Friday. Today I was reading about, what was I reading about? The Panchax parvus was one of the fish that I was reading about today. And let's be honest, interesting fish, nothing too crazy what they're up to. So that was the fish I was reading about today. I was also listening to, my usual crazy podcasts and all that kind of stuff that I listen to. Life is moving right along. We're working. We're staying busy. I was up at the aquarium co-op doing work this week, plumbing and all that kind of stuff, the lovely stuff that's going on there. People have asked if I was up working on Corey's new fish room. I'm helping out with some stuff up there, but there's a lot of people contributing to that whole situation. So that one, I cannot claim full whatever. But, I like Dean and Corey were up there yesterday. I was up there. Some other contractors were up there helping, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on up in that neck of the woods, but it's moving along, and I'm sure you guys will see loads of content from Corey and probably Jimmy and probably whoever else that goes up there. So no worries about the lack of content, so don't worry about that. Yeah. So that is the... That's what's going on this week. I've got limited sleep. I've been very busy. Part of one of the videos I've been working on was some of the video from the Netherlands, and boy howdy did I forget to save a screen cap. I was going to take a screenshot, so let's see. Hopefully we don't crash the stream here. I got to open my video editing program, and I'm going to quickly I'm going to take some photos here real quick. Let's close that. And I will convert some photos. So we have, okay, so we got 0072 is the file. So let me grab the original, and we're going to go like this. So, okay, yeah, let's go right here. Right there. And of course it's blurry, so we have to go forward just a little bit. There we go. That's cool. Let's go like this. Save that one. Then we'll move that file out of the way. And we'll save this one. Is that in the same spot? I don't think it's in the same spot. Yeah, it might be. Okay. So one of the reasons that I delayed in... let's not save that. Okay. One of the reasons that I kind of had a delay in getting out more of the Netherlands content was kind of intentional, because I didn't want to release everything all in 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever. We didn't want to I didn't want to release all the content from how much that trip cost to do. It was a fair bit of travel time, all of that kind of stuff. I got charged extra because I got charged extra because I missed the return flight for whatever goofy reason. The Amsterdam airport was like messing with your guy right here. I was being messed with, and I had to buy a whole different plane ticket. But here's another one of the reasons that I am having to take my time. So I want to show you guys this image right here. So I'm having to grade the video from looking like this under hot pink lights to, let's add, so this is one of the aquaponics places that Johan and I went to, and then so let me go like this. I'm gonna make them the same size because we have that feature here to move them in place. Okay, so this will give you an idea. If I go like this, this is what the video looks like. Then this is as far as I've gotten with the color grading. So I think it's at a point now where it's at least watchable to be able to remove all of that crazy, all the crazy like bright neon red, what is it? It's not cyan. There's a different name for it, but this red color of light that looks like this, right? That's that spectrum for growing plants. This whole place looked like this. This is the lighting. This is the lighting that was there. So we had to film it like this. And the reality is, like, there are filters for your camera nowadays that you can put on the front of your lens and shift that color. And there's some stuff that you can do within camera. But at the time, like, I wasn't confident with that. I had never bought one of those filters or anything like that. So we could have manually tried to do that. But we didn't. So we just filmed it like this. And so now I'm having to go through grading the footage, reprocessing it, and taking it from this to this. So at least it's like you could recognize what's going on. And be able to figure out what the deal is. Joel G says, not necessarily your connection. Joel's stream comes through whack for me. Always has. Let's see. Oh, I personally have a poor connection right now for some reason. It's giving me the yellow. It's not giving me green. It's giving me yellow. I don't know why. YouTube does this from time to time. I get a air quote poor connection, and then on my end I check it, and I'm like streaming. You know, I'm at 500 gigs down, 500 megs or 500 megs down, 500 megs up, and I'm like, dude, I pay for fiber optic. Like, what the hell? So I don't know. You know, I mean, I could literally go do a speed test right now. Let's do it on my crappy computer. Let's do a speed test over on this computer real quick. Let's see what it is. Let's run a speed test. Ookla. Go. So my upload speed is currently... Oh, my ping is like 50 milliseconds. That's crazy. That's crazy bad. Yeah, so my upload speed right now is 250 megabytes a second on this computer, the old one. So it looks like my ping is low. And that probably has to do with the fact that I have to broadcast through multiple VPNs, so virtual private networks, mainly because the criminal element in the world, that's basically what it boils down to, is that, you know, I have to mask where I am, even though you guys know I'm in Tacoma, Washington. You know, my ping is bad at this moment, but that's probably because I'm running through everything through a VPN. So, you know, that's life, right? That's life in the world that we live in, that there's a lot of creeps out there, and they want to break in and steal your information, or maybe call the authorities on you to maybe put your life in danger and whatnot. And, like, I don't appreciate any of that stuff. But, hey, that's the world that we have to live in. And I don't know, maybe there's a better VPN that I could be using, but the one I have, I'm pretty satisfied with. It seems to work quite well. So either way, yeah. So my ping is 50 milliseconds right now, and there's nothing I can really do to change it other than stop the stream and then like completely restart it. I know that we've tried some other stuff before, but I don't think it's the greatest idea to try. How many computers, keyboards, and mice, both living and the electronic type, do you have on your desk? I have 2 computers, 2 mice, 2 keyboards. I have 2 computers right here on this desk. And I have parts to build another computer. I'm basically waiting for this one to die. So I have all my parts lined up, and then whenever this one stops being good at doing email, so that computer over there, I basically only use for like email and writing and that kind of stuff. I don't do any editing or anything on it. And at some point in time, it's going to give out. So I basically have all the guts. I have a motherboard, CPU, all that stuff sitting over there so that I can just take everything out of this computer once it gives out, and just make it into a new one. Keep the case and the vital parts that are still working good, or working well. Sorry. Should have quality English, being at a first. English being my first language, I should probably be pretty good at it. Maybe it's the blue shirt. You usually wear earth tones. I generally wear earth tones. I don't have much like day glow or anything wacky like that. I don't normally wear prints these days, like anything that like has identifier on it, mainly because, well, I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is. I like the button. I like a snap Western shirt. People have asked me where I get them from. I buy them when they go on super discount at the outlet stores. That's generally where I get them. Like a lot of times you go to the outlet store. There's like an outlet store, Western wear from here that's like, you have to drive south like 40, I want to say like 40 minutes, maybe 45, right in that range right there. Drive south. There's a bunch of outlet stores down there. There's like a really good Western wear one that almost always has like these shirts for like $5 because they'll be like from the earlier in the year or whatever. I'm not 100% sure. That I know that the fashion industry has a whole lot of concerns about people making cheap clothes and then selling cheap clothes and then having to do all that. Hassan Minhaj did a really good piece on it. If I remember correctly, I think Hassan Minhaj did like a piece on clothing and just how predatory that business is. But regardless of that, that's where I go because I'm like, dude, I'm just these shirts are normally like $65 or something like that if you're buying them new. So I go to the outlet store, buy them, and I won't buy one if it's like more than $12.99. That's like my cutoff. If it's a really cool shirt for like $12.99, I'm like, okay, that's totally okay. It's a really cool shirt, whatever. But they're normally like $7.99 or whatever. They're just kind of giving them away at that point. Joel or anyone have a shrimp explosion. About 17 adults now have 80 plus, and about 30 are adult size in 4 months. They were in an 8-gallon Rockscaped. How much can I have in this size tank? You've pretty much reached maximum density. I would start moving them out. I spent a lot of years operating in those 8-gallon tanks, so the 12-inch by 12-inch cubes. Those are like 7.9 gallons or whatever. I spent a lot of years doing stuff with those. When you have that big explosion of shrimp and then they grow up, it's time to start to move some of them out. Because they start breeding. Now you have like this gross overpopulation, and in such a small tank, it's really easy for the shrimp. You know, a couple of the shrimp get out competed, right? Then they die, and you don't notice it, which brings your ammonia up a little bit. The rest of the shrimp consume the dead shrimp, so you don't even really have noticed it. It's just really easy for the dominoes to start getting knocked over in a small tank like that. So right now, once they're kind of grown, I would start to move some of those out because the shrimp that are in there now are going to start breeding. So that's my advice. It's like, you know, I think most people would know that like 100 shrimp in a 8-gallon tank, it's like, this could become an issue. You know, it could become an issue because just the population is too big for that small of a volume of tank. And same thing with like a 20-gallon tank. You know, if you have like 400 shrimp in there, it's like, something is going to come up at some point in time. Tony Franzen with the 20 Swedish kroner super chat saying that the Swedes are here. That's right. We have multiple Swedes on the live stream right now, which is, it's phenomenal to see the statistically speaking, you start to talk about the representation from Sweden versus the representation from America and whatnot. I think it has to do with people in Sweden sharing out videos that they like with other Swedish people. And we don't really see that in America. Americans just, you know, we all want to be hipsters and be the only person that knows about a thing. And so we don't share videos out. That's just not something that we do. We don't like sharing. Americans just don't like sharing. It's not in our culture. It's in our culture to get all the money and then have all the money and then sit on it like who's that dragon from the Lord of the Rings? Who's that? Which dragon from the Lord of the Rings? What was his name? Smaug. That's right. Just be sitting on a pile of gold like Smaug. The old Smaug. I'm having problems recently trying to remember a lot of stuff from the Lord of the Rings because I've been listening to a Lord of the Rings channel. I don't know if you guys know this channel. Lord of the Rings YouTube channel. I think it's called Everything Middle Earth. I think that's the one. Whoa, don't automatically play. Nope, that's not the one. This one only has like 5 videos. The one I found has like, they're putting out like 4 videos, 5 videos a week or something like that. Oh, this might be it. Don't autoplay. Stop having autoplay on your channel. Nope, that's not it. Crap. I wanted to share this channel with you guys, and I probably should have just had it at the ready. Oh, website expired. Okay, so let's go to this one, and then it'll open up YouTube, and I can just go to my history. Stop playing that. If I click up here. Oh, where is it on the... Here it is. I always forget where the history button is on YouTube. Let's scroll down, scroll down. So Geek Zone did some, but that's not the one that I'm... I listened to a couple of these videos, and it literally started auto-playing like this whole channel. And then, of course, I listened to a bunch of music, so I'm going to have to keep scrolling down here. Here it is, History of Middle Earth. Let me... Gosh, can I... Is there a way to... Don't autoplay. Okay. Copy. Paste. Here we go. So this channel right here has definitely been... I've been listening to this a bunch. They kind of do these like 10, maybe maximum 20 minutes videos. It seems like they're doing a lot, and they have like multiple contributors and stuff. I thought it was very interesting, and it's like one of those things where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to actually follow up on this information realistically that you're getting, but I thought that was like a really good kind of fun thing to be listening to. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that, it's like Tolkien, he basically made the languages, he basically made the languages to, basically to the society before they wrote the history of it, which is pretty wild. I mean, it's pretty wild stuff to like make a whole entire language. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. I think that's wild. Let's remove this. Let's remove that. Yeah, I don't know, but that's kind of stuff I've been listening to lately. There are definitely like a lot of political channels and stuff I listen to for sure. I'm not going to necessarily promote any of them, but like Second Thought does a really good job. Knowing Better does a really good job. Thought Slime does a really good job. I mean, there's just a lot out there. David Pakman does a good job covering day-to-day stuff. There's just so much out there that you can kind of find your political leaning niche, which I know somebody was asking me the other day. Let me get the somebody was asking the other day what like my political leaning is or whatever. And I was looking at the left-right like axis chart and realizing that like, yeah, I don't really know exactly where I'm landing in here. So let me go like this: screen capture, smart selection. So I found like a chart very similar to this one here that kind of plots some people out and whatnot. And, you know, I think if realistically, if they're saying Bernie Sanders is right here, which I would personally disagree with a lot of this. Like, I think Bernie Sanders is more-ish like over here, right? He's like a little bit of a leftist because people are thinking that like a leftist person, right, is like, oh, well, you're like super extreme for wanting social programs. Like that is some of the leftist stuff, but um like a super leftist would be like literally like everyone owns everything all the time or whatever, which I would not put myself over there anyhow. And I certainly don't I certainly don't put myself in this like libertarian area of going like, yeah, everybody's just free to do everything all the time. And then I also don't put myself in this authoritarian area, and I also wouldn't put myself like up like you put Stalin up here. It's like, this is crazy, right? Like, no, Stalinism is bad. Mao is right here. Lenin is right here. Like, this is all crazy. And I would say realistically, I probably land where this fake Sanders button is plot point is supposed to be, somewhere in here, in this range right here. Gandhi, I guess Stein. I guess that's Jill Stein. I don't know why she's on there. Pakistan, a country. The country's on here. That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, well, I guess Vietnam's on here. So I guess the only countries on here, we got Luxembourg, Vietnam, Pakistan, Russia, Hitler. I mean, come on. This is a weird chart. But either way, I'm super socially liberal. I'm very liberal as far as like, social economic programs should exist. I believe that the collective good is where we should be investing ourselves. And whatnot, but I also don't think that we're supposed to be like anarchists with no, everyone's just free to do whatever, because I believe, in all honesty, that with that total chaos situation, you just lead to total disorder and sadness and no food, like not a good idea. So, but yeah, I think, pretty much everybody falling in this range here, I pretty much have an agreement with, like most of the people in this range, you know what I'm saying? Like this zone here, like, yeah, maybe even just a little more leftist, because I think they plotted Obama pretty accurately, honestly. Is that Lex Friedman? I don't know why Lex Friedman would be on here with Jefferson and Washington. Let's see. Friedman. Is this alphabetical down here? Yeah. Well, either way. Like, I pretty much get along with most of those people because we'd all just be having a base a disagreement on, like, should there be 100 cops or 110 cops or something? You know what I mean? All just kind of basic stuff where you'd be like, I think 12% tax is more reasonable than 13% tax. And you'd be like, okay, well, what are we going to cut out if we cut that 1%? You know what I mean? I'm down with these conversations. I don't waste my time out here in all this weirdness, So that's pretty much where I am. People have asked, but I'm like super socially liberal. I want more rights for people, but I also want us to be working as a whole to continue moving forward with the things that we like. You know what I mean? The things that we honestly like. And I got into a big argument earlier this week with somebody who is of the inclination to say that basically everything that they do themselves is the reason for everything that has ever happened to them. Which is interesting because I'm like, do you have a doctorate? And they're like, no, I don't have a doctorate. I'm like, well, where do you get your medicine from? Some other people make medicine. Uh-huh. You're a part of that community. You are going to need medicine at some point in time. As a matter of fact, you pretty much need medicine from day one. you're going to need medicine from day one. You're going to need food from day one. You're going to need shelter from day one. You need plumbing, electrical, and it was one of those things that, like, if I'm to argue with somebody about a doctorate, right, they get uppity, they get mad, like, I can't ask them to have a doctorate. That's ridiculous. Well, it's like, where is your fresh water coming from? Like, 99.9% of the people that are walking around doing stuff and everything don't have anything to do with where the water comes from other than, like, turning a knob and water shoots out of it, right? The reality with that is that we all live within a system that is trying to do the better good, you know what I mean? And with us, like, trying to do the better good is that we then convolute all of their needs. So basically, what's going on with my mouse going crazy? It's running out of breeze, if I had to guess. At the same, and now my mouse is jumping around. Maybe am I running too programmed now? Is that the problem? Did we fix it? Is it fixed? Unsure. Still getting poor connection from YouTube, so we'll see where we're at. Some people said, do I think that the NSA shut me down? Seems doubtful. Seems doubtful that the NSA would be that involved, but who knows? As we continue to see more and more people, at the very least, getting a little bit exposed to the idea that most of our, not all, but a very high, extremely high percentage of terror that we are subject to in the United States, definitely not all, and I'm not saying that, is from these kind of right-wing wacko groups out there. Anyhow, cannot remember what I was talking about. I think I was talking about us living within a society. Everybody's doing their little part as we grew as a community. Bartering didn't work very much anymore, and we did implement money, So you essentially used your talent that you would have bartered to acquire money, right? So that you could vastly grab all of the little bits and pieces that you need out of your life. And while I would say that that was paramountly the accurate representation of that system, 40 to 50, maybe 60, 70, 80 years ago, yes, I believe that would be an accurate representation of that system, whereas we've seen over the last 40 to 50 years the evolution of big portions of the world economy, like pressures from countries putting pressure onto other countries, other societies, and all that kind of stuff. And we're definitely seeing at this point in time in the year 2020 that a lot of these systemic issues that have been going on in many countries are now not so much that they're either worse or better. It's just that we actually get to hear about them more often than not. Information does move around fast. We definitely don't get all of the information. A lot of it gets suppressed and this and that. That is for certain. But we do are getting a lot more information than we used to, just on the basis that, like, I could go look up the CDC's website right now and read about whatever I wanted to with all the stuff that they have published there to kind of have a good idea of what's happening in the world, So there's a lot going on, and it is firmly in my belief that if we continue to work as a society, we're going to keep moving forward. If we decide to become insulated group that only takes our own interests into account, it's not going to work out well. It's never worked out well in the past. So that's basically my mindset and where I'm at anyhow. We lost most of our viewers. We were at 75 or something, and now we're at 34. So, yeah, that's the world we live in. You get technical issues and everybody is going to leave. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen in life, Tony Franzen says 2020 has been crazy. Yeah, 100%. This has been a wild year. Nothing has worked out this year like I thought it was going to. Just strictly on a financial standpoint, like there's been a lot of hurt there. I realistically had some really lofty goals for what projects I was going to do this year for YouTube, for the content coming out. And like none of that stuff realistically happened. So I've completely had to change what my plan was. Traveling wasn't really going to be a thing. I got sick, which, hey, that stuff happens. You know what I mean? Like everybody gets sick sometimes and things go on. But the weird thing is like everybody got sick. It's like everybody got sick. I know that not everybody has gotten COVID or anything like that, but it's as if we all got sick and missed work for a couple months, So, it's just been a really wild year, and it's definitely given a lot more opportunity for people to be taking consideration. And not to say that, like, I'm the smart guy who has had smart worries and things that I've been complained about, but it definitely has brought more people into the, like, hey, maybe we got to address some of this systemic nonsense that's been going on in a better way than just selling this ideology of independence or whatever, it's pretty wacky where we're at right now. But, yeah, so speaking of that, YouTube members do not need to change the number. We are at 102 members, which is, I got to tell you guys, it's pretty astounding to be at 102 members. With everything that has gone on this year, how many people had to drop membership and that kind of stuff. That's most of where the funding to do this channel comes from. If we're counting on ad dollars, it ain't going to happen. If we are counting on YouTube base revenue, whatever, people watching commercials and stuff, it's not going to happen. But if we have a bunch of people at $1 a month or a bunch of people at $3 a month, we'll be able to continue funding and hopefully move on with some of those projects. That's just a reality. Like my income, which I was basing this year off of, was not an outrageous number. It was not a ton of money a month or anything like that. It was like, okay, that's enough to cover this so that I can work, 3-4 days a week and work 3 days a week on YouTube or 4 days a week on YouTube and kind of go back and forth. And that got cut in half, so it's been a little bit weird, but we're just going to continue moving on, and let's give a shout out to our patrons, which we do have to change the number on that. It did a dramatic drop at the end of the month last month, but happy to say we've recovered a little bit, and now we're back to the weird 8. That's like a weird upside down 8. On this font, the 8 is upside down, and I'm sure it drives people crazy. So let's switch it to this one. Oh wow, that's an awful font. I do not like that font. Let's see what we got. Let's scroll way down in my giant list of fonts. Let's try this one. Nope, don't like the number. No, that's not good either. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's brutal. Don't like it. No, we don't like that one. Let's try this one. Oh, that is abysmal. Let's try. Oh no, I don't like that either. Is there good? Do I even have a good font in here? Well, this one actually kind of looks 8-bit, so let's go with that. Let's go with 8-bit, and it will stop doing this bit that is a commercial for hopefully patrons and YouTube members, right? And then we can just stop doing this, and we can go back to doing regular parts of the show. Although it's going to drive me nuts if this isn't centered, right? It's centered enough. Seems good. Seems decent. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Only the elite viewers suffer through the hardship. That's true. That's a good point, Rumbust. I see Danny's Aquariums here. Hello, Danny. Good to see you. I was actually talking about Netherlands content earlier, which some of that should be coming out sometime. We're doing I'm color grading some of the crazy stuff that Johan and I filmed. Delicious coffee. I'm glad I remembered my coffee. This has been a stressful episode with the internet going down and YouTube being terrible. Yeah. We got a $5 super chat from the Fish Tank Barn. It looks like the Fish Tank Barn has an iPhone now. He's got that $4.99 super chat. Yeah, iPhones do the 99. And America super chat from Mikey earlier. I don't know if I remember got that. $5 super chat from Mikey Fishies. America is here too. All right, America is here too. Oh, that's when I was talking about Sweden. We have a disproportionately high amount of Swedish people watching the shows around here, watching the content. Also, stick to food you're certain about. Do not get experimental with the diet unless you really understand the quantity and impact to the water quality. Ryan Melling. 20 cherry shrimp delivered today. Plan to drip acclimate them for about an hour before adding to the aquarium. Any thoughts and suggestions to give them the best chance of having successful introduction? Well, I mean, water parameters is going to be the biggest thing. That's going to be the biggest deal for fish, shrimp, anything out there. If you have dramatically wild water parameters, that's going to be the biggest problem. Cherry shrimp are pretty resilient though, so I wouldn't be super concerned as long as you have, as long as you have water with like no ammonia in it, no nitrite in it, you're generally speaking going to be within their parameters. So, just don't, as Donald said, just don't overfeed and stuff. You could throw your water out of whack. Dave's Aquarium says, can't wait to see the special content from Johan's workplace. Yeah, Johan and I shot a video on the electron microscope, and I have got to tell you guys, there's like a ton of video, and it's super difficult to edit. So I was almost thinking of having a friend of the channel that does editing every once in a blue moon, like when Olivia was born. And I was going to see if he could do something with it. I was going to see if he could do something with the content. Otherwise, I'm going to have to just keep reviewing it myself and to figure out what the story is with that. What the story is with that video. I don't know. It just seems it was super late. We were both really tired, and it's just kind of goofy. It's just like a goofy, weird video that we should have had some kind of script to follow on like what we were doing, but we were basically just hanging out playing with the electron microscope. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. We just kept sticking stuff in there to look at it under the electron microscope and see what we could see. And neither of us are like biologists, so it's like whenever we identified a cell or a bacteria or something, we were like, yeah, I think that's that one, but who knows? We're not classically trained biologists or anything. We're just a couple of guys with an electron microscope checking it out, seeing what the hell was going on. And so it was a lot of fun, but we'll see what happens. Danny's Aquarium says, it was great to meet you last year. Yeah, man, it was great to meet you too. And I wish we were at Vivarium this year. I wish Vivarium was happening. I believe it's an online convention this year. I think they're doing it all remotely online, as far as I know. That was the last thing I saw. Let's check it out. Vivarium 2020. I believe it's all online. Oh, great. There's a movie now named Vivarium. So that makes it real easy to look that up. Does it have Michael Cera in it? Is that who that is? I don't know. Now all there is, if you ever look up Vivarium now, or it's Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know. This might as well be the same guy. Fish convention. I was getting like some updates about Vivarium, and then they just dropped off. Like I wasn't getting them at all. Due to the current state of affairs regarding COVID-19, the Vivarium organization unfortunately had to decide to postpone the 2020 edition. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think they'll probably be back next year, and I think there was an online version of it. I think. Let's see. Registration schedule, January 2021. Partner program launch, February, March, April onwards. Registration open for new exhibitors. Yeah, so it looks like at some point in time there will be one in 2021. I'm not 100% sure. But here's the problem. I don't know if I'm going to be able to travel to Europe by the time the next Vivarium comes around. I believe the best option that you have right now is to somehow travel to Canada and then fly from Canada, I think, or something crazy like that. I think there's some countries that are allowing Americans to come there, and as long as you're test negative here, test negative there, and then you quarantine for I think it's a quarantine for 14 days, which is a long time to sit in quarantine in a foreign country waiting to be able to go to a convention. You know what I mean? It's like, so I'm going to fly somewhere and then stay in a hotel for 2 weeks straight, just quarantining. So the likelihood, unless that stuff changes, I'm going to be here in the States. And I'm going to be honest with you when I say I'm not really that interested to go to an American convention. They've always pretty much sucked, and I'm going to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of people there that I really want to go see. There are some, but I think the some that I would want to go see, I could probably just go visit them on a personal level, so, Dave's Aquarium says, from what I heard from you and Johan, I think a collab with Mike from Aquapros or Jason from Primetime Aquatics could work well. Jason is an awesome dude. Mike is an awesome dude. They are both fantastic guys. I love there's two people right there from YouTube that I think are awesome. 100%. Whether or not we'd be able to collab, doubt it. Like, the strongest doubt I've ever had sits in the doubt. Because not anything specific about Mike or Jason, but we all have lives. We're all super busy. Those guys, Jason has a job. Mike's job is YouTube. but he has like a new wife. Jason has kids. I think he has 2 kids. Maybe he has 3. I don't know. I know he at least has 2 boys, right? And a YouTube job and all that stuff. It's just collaborating with other YouTubers is a disaster. It's just such a disaster. It really is. You either have to collab with somebody who's like bigger than you, and then you're like, oh, hey, man, let's collaborate. But there's no real motivation for them to do it, because it's like they're going to do a bunch of work and then they don't get paid for it, which is generally what happens on YouTube anyhow. But then it doesn't come out on their channel. And then you get a bunch of fans that like come over and give like a fake subscription, like they hit subscribe, and then they don't ever watch their content, which actually makes your channel do worse. So I'm not a fan of doing collaborations with other YouTubers unless they are something that's important. You know what I mean? And if it's an important collaboration, like, then I'm into it. But you're basically like trying to commit somebody to do some work for you or with you that no one's ever going to really get paid for. So people are not motivated to do it. And here's a parallel. Let's say you play bass guitar and you would like to play bass guitar with somebody who plays rhythm guitar and lead guitar and a drummer and maybe even a keyboard player or something like that, right? A band, otherwise known as a band, right? Now, you try to meet up once every 2 weeks so you could play the songs, that you wanted to practice and learn how to play together as a band. Turns out the rhythm guitar player never learned the sheet music, the drummer never practiced, and somebody didn't show up at all to the practice because of whatever. And then you're like, well, okay, well, the next time it's not a big deal. Well, a couple weeks go by, same thing happens with different people. A couple weeks go by, same thing happens with a couple people. A couple weeks go by, same thing happens with a couple people. Eventually, you're just like, dude, this isn't a band. This isn't a thing. I'm just going to go home and play my bass guitar at my house. Because that's what you've been doing anyhow, right? And it's real... it's a real reality of the situation. Like, Bentley is a perfect example. He's in the chat right now, so I'm not like trying to put words into his mouth or any of that kind of stuff. But Bentley's busy. He's working. He has been more than gracious to come up here and be on the show a couple of times. I think maybe 3 times. There's a perfect example right there of the fact that we're dealing with COVID is that as soon as Bentley would come here to like do an episode, we have immediately opened up our bubble, basically, right? So the bubble of people that we're involved with. So it's like all of a sudden you go from being exposed to 20 people to being exposed to 140 people or something. You know what I mean? And I would love to be doing collaborations with Bentley and Alyssa right now. Like, I know that we could put something like that together. Alyssa and I were doing it pretty much bi-weekly for a grip there. But the last thing that anybody wants to do is go and make the phone call that you're like, oh, yeah, I've got corona, so now you're stuck at your house for 3 weeks because I got corona and I exposed you to it. Like, that's not going to work. And we can't really do that kind of stuff remotely. But today we're actually going to try to see if we can take phone calls. That's kind of my question. If we're going to be able to take phone calls off of the Discord. So I did set up a channel on the Discord that people would be able to voice chat on. And then I think I'll be able to mute everybody except for one person at a time if anybody even showed up in there. I titled it October... Am I in the voice channel? Yeah, I have to go to the voice channel. Okay, there we go. I didn't click on it. But I don't think I have video enabled. Okay, so that's working. Dave's Aquarium is in there, and I can actually unmute him. So we'll see what happens. Oh, he's muted himself. We're going to test it out. We're going to test it out. We're going to see what happens. I probably have to have my audio up. Oh, I should probably have my earphones in, huh? Did not switch over to my earphones. It looks like he's muted himself. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. So that's like something that we're kind of trying out that pretty much anybody could call in. So like maybe the collaboration would just literally be whoever's calling in. Oh, I hear him. I hear noises.
I didn't actually mean to click on that.
But it worked. So let's see. Let me open up this and see if you guys are getting the sound. So you talk, Dave, and then we'll see if the sound works.
All right. I did have to mute the YouTube page because the delay through the VPN was really giving me a headache.
Oh, well,
it's working.
There is also a big delay from YouTube, period. That's not even just the VPN. Like, YouTube is like, so your guys' viewing is like 14 seconds behind, I think. I think it's like 14 seconds behind is where the YouTube viewers are watching. And I think it has to do with, like, you know, if somebody's pants fall off or something, you know what I mean? Then you're like, oh, cut the feed, you know, and then you don't get demonetized. Funny. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so what's going on? What was your question today?
I didn't actually have one. I was just going to say that my suggestion for the collaboration was only to try and put a little science in what you described as an unorganized video. But I do completely understand. My sister's a drummer. I play bass, coincidentally. And yep, it's the content collaboration is a nightmare always. And for YouTube, apparently it's 100 times worse than with 5 people in a practice space.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing is, like, if you're dealing with a band and, like, everybody lives in the same town, you know, and it's like, oh, we need to get the Tacoma rock band together, and everybody lives in the same city, that's an issue, let alone, which is weird. Like, I forget where Jason lives, like Colorado or something. I don't know. Let's just say he lives in Colorado. It's probably not accurate, but let's just say that. It's like
he's outside Chicago, about 15 minutes from me.
Oh, okay. So he's in Chicago. That's even worse because it's even further away. But it's like you start to deal with time zones. You start to deal with, like, having to email back and forth. And then, you know, it just works into this crazy thing where you're like, there is no band practice, but everyone's supposed to show up for band practice, you know. And it's like, but when's band practice? Like, well, there isn't one. Just show up and make content for somebody else's channel, you know, which sounds like a good deal. Whereas, like, his channel's name is Aquamate, so I'll just say Aquamate. I went on his live stream a little while ago, and one of the things that he was doing was him and Bentley went back and forth. Where'd Rumbus go? Oh, Rumbus was in here to chat, but then he left. So what him and Bentley were doing was they made a video for each. They made their video for their normal channel, but then they swapped them, right? So, like, Aquamate played Bentley's video on his channel, and Bentley played Aquamate's video on Bentley's channel, right? Which I thought was, like, a really interesting concept, and I thought was a really good idea or whatever. But then all of a sudden it's like, I have to make a video for somebody else's timetable when, like, I have no idea what their obligations are or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, man, this thing's like 3 days late. You got to have it ready. Otherwise I can't put out my video, you know?
Yeah, if it's planned, it seems like a fantastic way to collaborate, but there's a lot that goes into that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, you could definitely plan for it, but then you also end up in the problem with, like, you know, plans change and stuff like that, and other people are relying on you. And it's like, let's say Corey and I were going to collaborate, right, on his main channel, and you're talking about like 500,000 viewers, or Aquapros is a good example. He's like basically the same size as Corey. Then all of a sudden, like his hundreds of thousands of fans are like, "Wait, where's the video this week?" And it's like, well, I was waiting to collaborate with somebody, and I made my video, and they didn't make theirs or something. And it's just like it's just too much to deal with. And I'm not naming specific anybody, but sometimes you find out that these people are not necessarily of the character that you thought. I'm not saying Mike or Jason. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying strictly the YouTuber people are not necessarily who you think they might be. Although some of them are who you think they might be, like Logan Paul. Good example. Dirtbag. Like, if you thought he was a dirtbag, he is. So, who knows? All right.
Agreed. Good application of best keep your mouth shut and let people assume you were a fool and open it and confirm it for them.
That's right. Yeah, just allow them to assume. All right, Dave, I'm going to let you go so you're not all stressed out.
No problem. Thanks, man.
All right, thank you. All right, so the calling room is open in case anybody wants to join in on the call. I'm going to let Dave go back to his regular business over there. And I'm going to leave that window open in case anybody comes in there and they want to yell at me or whatever. They can totally do that. It's kind of a new feature I was trying out, and I wanted to test it today. And thanks, Dave, for allowing us to test it and see how well it worked. Now we'll be able to go back. And check the audio quality after the fact and make sure that it's good to go in case I got to make some changes or something like that. I'm thinking I might have to wear my earpiece, but you guys let me know if you could hear him through the mic or not, and we'll go from there, because that was just like the perfect listening temperature of sound for me to be in here. So let's see here. Okay, so let's go over to... Okay, so I have to open that. Then I have to push this button over here. Where did it go? Okay, that one. And then we got to get our Patreon posts of the day. And we can do that real quick. I had this selected earlier, and then I was messing around during the live stream, and then the live stream crashed. So, I'm going to fix it and make sure that it's correct. Speaking of Dave... Look at this. Dave's like got a double contribution. He called in and he posted to the Patreon. Man, look at that. If only there were so many Daves that we just couldn't handle ourselves. If only. Okay, so moving right along. What do we got here? Okay. That thing just popped up over there. But Dave sent this in. This Mrs. Bristlenose got in on the egg action tonight. She mowed through the angel eggs on the overflow pipe in about 45 seconds, right as the lights went out and the angels scattered as they do, which is, I think this is ultimately like one of the issues with certain fish in an aquarium. It is very easy to go like, well, this is an innocuous fish. Like, this fish is non-threatening. It's not going to attack anybody or anything like that. But then the reality is like, oh, man, maybe the bristlenose was wrong for this tank. So even though it's not an aggressive fish to necessarily like be attacking other fish and stuff like that, maybe it wasn't a good idea to have it in the maybe it wasn't a good idea to have it in an aquarium with the angelfish breeding, because it has a strong desire to eat all of the eggy waggies. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think this is a good lesson for anybody to learn, and it's definitely a good lesson that if you're on the outside looking in, you could definitely think about it. Rico Stan says, I joined, but like usual, I have nothing to contribute. Oh, well, that's life. I wish Discord had a better way to get out of the live voice chat. I had to kill the window to get out. I think there is a better way to do it. I just... this is kind of just my first time messing around with it, but I think you go into the room and then you unmute yourself. I think you just mute yourself. That's probably the best way to do it, and then you can just change chat rooms or whatever. But either way, Where's Alyssa Bentley? Why doesn't she call in? She should call in and we could talk about ramshorn snails or something. Bentley says, what was Bentley talking about? I was talking about Bentley, so I'm going to scroll back and see if I offended him. I hope I didn't. I'm always trying to be cognizant about that because it's never my intention to offend people. Because when it is my intention to offend people, it's freaking obvious, dude. It's legit obvious. It's not accidental. Right now, I'm assembling some dude's furniture for money. This is fun, but I do miss being on the show. Oh, that's what Alyssa's doing. Okay. Good point. And I remember that you said you were assembling furniture for a job today. Taking a side job building furniture. I like it. Maybe Alyssa's moving into a little bit of the handyman trade. That would be cool, right? You get a power drill and hang up some pictures for somebody or fix somebody's leaky pipe. You know, who knows? Oh, Blake's thing. Yeah, that was a one-off for me. Blake literally did everything around my timetable. He was a peach of a person. Yeah, I thought Blake is awesome. Like, you guys know that I normally do, like, I will pop onto people's live streams. That is something that I like to do. Because it's literally one of those things that's like, it's an hour-long commitment or a half an hour-long commitment or a whatever commitment. And that's something that I can commit to doing, where it's like, you know, I could do this thing for an hour, like, and then, oh, it's over now. Okay. And then we can move on. Or maybe it ends up going to an hour and a half or something like that. Like, I go on to, I don't want to say his channel name wrong. It's Dr. Black 66. It's an Australian fish tuber, right? And we normally do that on Tuesdays. We have the daylight savings and stuff going on this weekend, so it's not the best situation for trying to figure out time and all that kind of stuff. But I normally do that on Tuesday evenings, U.S. I think it's Wednesday something down there, but down under. But we do that, and I'm more than happy to go and do a collaboration like that with somebody, but it's very difficult to, like, trying to do any type of produced content with somebody else. It's just, you know, they're not invested. You know, they're not invested for it to be good or whatever. It's literally just like when people collaborate, it's like, oh, I'll show up and I'll be in your video for a little while, like while we go do something. And then, oh, yeah, you go edit that and do all the post-production and all that kind of stuff. And it's sort of like, I'm not enthusiastic to do it. I'm not enthusiastic to do the post-production for somebody else's channel in the hopes that I make, you know, $7 in YouTube revenue that is taxed at, what, 32%? Works out to like $4.70 or $4.40. You know, it's just one of those things. So as much as I like collaboration, there has to be like a big reason to do it. I have an aquarium co-op collaborations that I'm coming out with, but those are all just organically kind of about aquarium co-op, not so much like a collaboration where I like need Corey's time to be on camera or whatever, or any of that kind of stuff. Blake is rad. Blackie is cool. Thirsty Rabbit, I don't know who that is. Aquamate, yeah. All the Aussies. I do like a lot of the Australians, yeah, for sure. Most of the Australians I see making content. I forget who's the big comedian Australian. I don't know. I can't remember I can't remember their name, and I don't think looking that up is a good idea while doing a live stream. But there's a Canadian Australian, or not a Canadian, comedian, an Australian comedian that makes YouTube videos that are quite hilarious, and I definitely get a kick out of those. So maybe it's just maybe Aussies and I have more in common than you would think. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. Right? I think it's possible. Rumbus sent these in right at the beginning of the show, so let's handle hammering on this 3D printing action, which I have to say, it's catching my fancy here a little bit. It's catching my fancy in my eyes, my looks from afar. Hey there, 3D printer, how you doing? This seems relatively easy to deal with as a piece of production equipment. This seems reasonable. Like, you got a laptop over here, some kind of controller that's running a timer, so maybe you send the program to it, hit start. Yeah, that's not bad. I like it. I don't know that much about 3D printing other than just the, I understand like the process. I understand how it's going. It's not something that I've invested a lot of time in learning how to do well. Mainly because of the fear of it becoming like the thing that I do all the time. It's just end up being like a guy who just does 3D printing all the time, because that could happen. I get obsessed with things. And the 3D printing, I literally was just like, I cannot get into this. If I get into this, this is going to be a thing that eats up hours and hours and hours out, hours and hours and hours out of my week that I just don't have. It's sort of like video games. Like, I don't play video games, at all. I used to play video games, like not an outrageous amount or anything like that, but I definitely have been a guy who's played some hours of role playing RPGs, right? I've definitely played some first person shooters. Definitely played a whole bunch of video games in my life. I'm like 40 years old, so I'm right at that age where it's like Nintendo came out when I was a little kid, and I played Super Mario Brothers on the day that it came out. Or maybe, I like to say the day that it came out, but I think it came out before Christmas. I got mine on Christmas, which is basically what it was released for. Was basically the release time was so that all the parents could buy it and then give it to their kids on Christmas. So nobody got theirs before Christmas, and I got mine on Christmas. Very excited, very wow, and so I'm right in that age of where, like, I played PlayStation 1. I played Nintendo 64. I played regular Nintendo. I played Super Nintendo. I played Genesis. I played all that stuff came out when I was a kid, young enough to be involved in all that stuff and be around. So, that's kind of the deal. The deal is like, I've been around for all that stuff, but I don't play video games anymore because I do not have the time for it. And that's why I stayed away from 3D printing, because I legit would be like upgrading equipment. I'd be researching stuff. I'd be trying to get different nozzles, different materials, different everything. And this is a perfect example of what I would be trying to do, which is, this is a much better printing from the old printer to the new printer. And I have to say, this looks like a pretty serious upgrade to me. Like, this is much more accurate than this one. You can see how close all the stacking. I mean, maybe they don't call it stacking, but each little stack of material is much, much nicer. I don't know. There's probably a word in there somewhere that maybe somebody would understand, but it seems doubtful at this point. But it looks much nicer than the other one, and this is basically what I would be searching after, is like trying to make these perfect 3D printings, and would be a frustrating extra use of my time. So that's the reason I didn't get into it. Not because I don't think 3D printing is awesome. I do think it's awesome, but I didn't get into it because of the reason that I aforementioned, that I would get obsessed. So, as Dave says, yes, the much better precision on that one. That's a better word. That's a better use of English words. Thank you. All right. So that's our Patreon post of the day. I'm not sure what those parts are. They look like brake pads. But I don't think they're brake pads. I don't think you can 3D print asbestos brake pads yet. All right. How many viewers do we have? Do we have enough likes? Did we hammer smash the like button? No, it doesn't look like we smashed the like button. 62 viewers and 38 likes. And we dumped half of the people that were watching this episode earlier. So, you know. Flickabook says, just been rewatching Blue Planet. The deep ocean has some crazy fish. Oh my God, you guys. This documentary I watched earlier, it's a short documentary, maybe 20 minutes long. I have the link here, but I have to... Hakarl is, I pronounced it completely wrong, Iceland's fermented shark. And somebody did a short documentary on
Look
this.
up this.
Whoops. This is like the 15-minute version one, and it's not that long. There was one that had some more to it, some more girth to the video length. It was girthier, it was meatier, it was longer. But that'll do a good one. It's the Hakarl is actually made by this guy who his whole life has been, like his whole family, generations before, is making this fermented shark that you have to dry out in the air. You have to remove all the ammonia by setting it in these wood crates and just letting it, bacteria and everything get on it, the bacterial process, to just be on there for like 6 months. Then you have to dry it out. So you have to hang the fish, and otherwise it's toxic. You can't eat it. You can't eat it raw. If you eat it raw, you'll die. It's basically got like so much ammonia and crap in it that you'll basically die. But this guy, his whole life's work is dealing with the Greenland, what's it called? A Greenland shark? I think that's what it's called. It's one of the deep sea sharks that goes super deep in the ocean, lives down where it's really cold, and you can't eat the meat fresh. You have to do this like 20 months, 9 months, 1 year process to get the meat to a point where you'd be able to eat it. And I'm not saying this is the end all be all of exciting or impressive things or anything like that. But a big thing that it imparted on me was somebody focused on doing something that was just a family project. You know, it's the family business or whatever that may or may not have realistically a market in the year 2020. And this guy is dedicated. He's driven. That's the thing that he's always done, is the thing that his family's always done, which is super interesting to me. But also it's not very timely. It's just some old traditional thing that was done in the past so that you could eat this food. And my takeaway was just that kind of feeling of like, not necessarily a feeling of nostalgia, but a feeling of respect that something like that could still exist. And I really hope to pass on some of that stuff to my daughter. I hope she's interested. If she's not interested, I'm not going to force any of my whatever you want to call them, hobbies or passions or whatever, and that kind of stuff. And I think it's a little inspirational to see stuff like that in this day and age. Big D Smoke, man, time really flies. I can't believe my son turns 20 years old today. Yeah, there's Big D Smoke. Is Dennis Jr. Dennis 3 turned 20 years old today. Congratulations, that is amazing. Happy birthday to Myrtle Singh, turning 18 tomorrow. That's a big important birthday, my guy. Yeah, happy early birthday from everybody. Very, very nice. Like that. Like, it's good to see that. It's good to see that. Maybe Myrtle will be able to become a member in a couple of months, and then we can chat with him on the Discord. Who knows? Then maybe he'll be able to call in, and then we can be like, hey, what are you doing? Are you growing fish? Are you growing plants? What you doing? Who knows? Alrighty, I'm running out of topics. I don't really know what else to talk about today. That shark thing was the thing that was so cool. Paula Kreinberg says, lots of big tanks coming up for sale cheap near me. Trying to be patient until I have a place for a 120. Got my 29 on solar power right now. Pretty happy about it. That is dope. Yeah, I mean, the plan here is if I ever get enough funds accumulated for the greenhouse, I'm definitely going to build the greenhouse. All the side jobs went away. A whole bunch of the YouTube revenue went away, all that kind of stuff. I'm kind of reeling and just deciding I'm going to hold off on those projects till I have more fundage in place. But yeah, it is great to see solar powered aquariums is dope. I'd like to be able to do that project so that I could show you guys how to do it. Pass on some information to you guys so you might be able to build some more sustainable situations for yourself in an accessible way. Who knows? But hopefully we'll be able to do that someday. But yeah, if you get some big tanks coming up, that's definitely going to be a big part of the current pandemic situation that we're in right now is really going to put us in a position that there's going to be a lot of stuff like that coming on the market, which is unfortunate for the people that are in that spot. And I don't wish that upon anybody. But if some deals do come up that are mutually beneficial for both parties, that's going to be pretty cool, because, if you find something like a 500-gallon or a $500 120-gallon tank that's like a nice acrylic tank, which has happened to me, that 150-gallon I have that you guys seen a lot of videos about, I think was like $500 or $600. I think it was like $500 when I got it. Yeah, 500. I think it was 500. Had the sump, some plumbing, pumps, a bunch of other stuff, which is pretty cool. Flick of Books wondering how the family is. Yeah, everybody's fine. We I don't know if I mentioned this a while ago, and I don't know if it's legal. I think it's legal. As far as I could tell, there's no thing in the way of being able to do this, but our daycare worker was working for a company, and we'd become friends with her because our little daughter became friends with her little daughter. Her daughter's a year older than Olivia, and her daughter went on to the next year class, basically. So they do like 1 to 2 year olds, then 2 to 3 year olds, that kind of situation. And, we'd become kind of friendly with her because our little daughters like to hang out. They hung out at the daycare all the time. And then her daughter moved up a grade, and our daycare provider had another baby. And when she came back after having the baby, was in a different age group. And so we were like kind of meeting up on the weekends and stuff like that. And then we talked with her because she had both of her daughters there with her. She had the baby in the infant class and her other daughter in the older class. And even as a worker there, you had to pay out a bunch of money for your kids to be there also. And we basically hired the daycare lady. And the reason that it kind of worked out was because, she doesn't have to pay for her 2 kids anymore. So now she basically watches her 2 daughters and our daughter, and we pay her. And, we have a contract with her. We wrote up a contract. We had it all signed. We had all that paperwork done to make sure that we know that we're legit. We got her a 1099 so that she's being paid as a contractor, all that kind of stuff. We did all that. And I know that I couldn't find anything that says that that's illegal to hire the daycare worker, but that's what we did. The reason I bring that up is that they're in our group, our social bubble, basically, of possible COVID deal, which is basically Olivia's daycare, her husband, obviously her kids, then my mom and her husband, and 2 of our friends. This is basically all of our bubble right there. That's our social bubble. Those are the people that we come in contact with, that's pretty much it, which has been stressful. It has been extraordinarily stressful to not really be around people, but I have to go up to work Aquarium Co-op. There's a bunch of people there I don't know that all work there. So I have to wear a mask the whole time, stay away from everybody, wash my hands a lot, do not cross-contaminate with people. If you don't know what cross-contamination is, go look that up. You know, don't mix your raw beef with your salad. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so that's basically our social bubble. They came over for dinner last night, so that was super nice. It was nice to have everybody here. It was so cool to talk to some adults and have dinner, and our kids were all just like hanging around and doing kid stuff and playing. It was just, I don't know what to tell you. It's great. That was cool. It's so cool. And they're super nice people. And they're smart. They're nice. It's pretty cool. I don't know. That is definitely, we're paying more than we were for daycare. But I honestly think it's worth it just for the peace of mind to know that Olivia's being taken care of really well, so that Vicky and I can work. Like, I have hours of editing to do today. I have a bunch of more emails to send back to people. I'm trying to get Ecotech to sponsor us a light, just so that, maybe I'll pay half, but I don't know that I want to buy a $400 light just so I could test it against lights that I already know work. It feels like a lot. I know I bought a $160 light to test against the lights that we already know that work. But that's see, I don't know if I've got you muted or if you've got yourself muted. Yeah, Zombie Drummer is gonna call in here in a second. He's got himself muted, so we'll see how this goes. Oh, there we go. He's got himself muted. All right. But yeah, so it was really nice to have that dinner last night. Like, that was amazing, and it is costing a little bit more money, but the peace of mind is just, it's paramount. And we even got we get sent pictures every day of what's going on. We know what her schooling is. I know she's not even 2 yet, but they do a school setting thing where they do painting and all that. It's amazing. So they have a really cool curriculum, and I think it's working pretty well. So either way, Zombie Drummer is here.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's exciting to be there. I'm having a little PTSD after you were talking about scheduling all that band stuff. That is my life, man.
Oh, I know. It is the, it's the weird thing is that trying to schedule a band and stuff is the most, it's one of the most ridiculous things ever, right? And
yeah.
Trying to schedule other YouTubers that are already doing YouTube stuff and or have a life also it's even more difficult. It's even more difficult than trying to get the drummer to show up, when he's got a pizza delivery shift or,
Yeah. Trying to get 5 people in the same room every week, and half of them have kids and all of us have jobs. It's
right.
It's next to impossible. But yeah. But anyways, happy to be here talking about fish. Maybe we'll talk about whatever we want, really, right?
Pretty much talk about whatever. What do you got fish projects going on right now? Let's do that.
Yeah. Right now, I got some platies breeding. Trying to figure out where I'm going to put them, really.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with some cories. Moving some stuff around, and then I'm setting up a new water supply for my fish. I'm gonna come off the washer and dryer supply and then drain into where the washer drains.
Right.
That's what I got going right now. And then I'm thinking about changing out my aquaponics siphons. I'm switching over to a bell siphon, but I'm worried it might be a little too gurgly for the living room.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that the reality with a bell siphon is that it will do one of two things. It will either make you lose your mind,
right,
or you end up being like one of those old people that has the cuckoo clock that goes off every 15 minutes, and you're like, right. Do you hear that? Do you notice that, Grandma? And they're like, oh no, that's just my clock. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be one of those people that's just like,
Yeah.
do you not hear these weird sound that happens every 6 minutes, dude? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The way I have it now, it runs pretty quiet, and then I don't have it off of a sump. I have the FX6 like being the sump and the pump kind of thing.
Okay.
And now I have it so that turns off every 12 hours, just doing its own like air purge deal.
Okay.
So then I have it set so it'll siphon out from the intake and drain the whole trays twice a day. But they're only drained for a little bit, so I'm like getting a little bit of like rotty stuff in there. So I'm thinking of just putting FX6 on a Wi-Fi timer, so I can have it just turn off maybe 2 more times during the day. Because right now it's like a deep water culture technically, so it's like maybe 6 inches of water in there, kind of like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I'm debating whether have the filter turn off more and have the whole thing drain a couple more times a day, or just aerate them, just throw air stones in there.
Yeah, I think realistically your best bet is to probably just cycle that on a timer. I think I would try that first, because I mean that's the most innocuous change, right? It's like, oh, let me buy a timer that's more adjustable,
Exactly.
So I would definitely try that and go that route, or even try a longer period of them basically drying out, like if you have it set for 15 minutes, then maybe bump it up to 45 or something,
Yeah. Good idea.
That would be my initial thing, because you really start messing around with the siphon and all that kind of stuff, like I'm not saying don't do that, but I would start with the timer and stuff and see if you can just make some changes in that, versus the other route first. I would say, like, if you try the timer thing and it doesn't work, even if you have to buy a new timer, it's still like, oh crap, I'm out $8. Like, whoopity-doo, not a big deal.
Right. Versus otherwise I have to break down the whole. I have to drain the trays, break them down, take them off there, and like rebuild the siphons and put them up there and hope it's better, basically.
Right.
So
yeah, and then you get like fingers crossed.
Right. That like few hours was worth my time, and I don't have to redo it. Yeah, that's what I got going on for projects now. Everything else, the tanks they've been set up for like 6 months since I moved, so they're all just like finally starting to kind of settle in.
Getting a rhythm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you went through that big move. Did you have any big losses or anything like that?
Oh, thank God, no.
Okay.
I lost 2 pea puffers, and then that was really it. Everything else was okay. I was lucky enough to be able to afford giving myself a month overlap, so I paid double rent for that month just so I could make the move simple, because I moved 18 tanks and over 100 houseplants, and then my girlfriend also had like over 100 plants to move in, so we had like quite a logistical challenge with the move. So
that is a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. And it was like in March, so here in Massachusetts it's still pretty cold too. So we had to deal with that.
Yeah, March in Massachusetts might as well be the North Pole. I mean,
it's wet and cold. Yeah, it is wet and cold. But
yeah, I've talked about that before. Like, there's a certain point when it gets cold enough that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. Like you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Like, there's a point where it's like it's so cold out. It's cold for everyone. It's cold for every single freaking person. It does not matter. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it's not 100 billion below zero though. And you're like, I don't know, dude. It's freaking cold out here, bro.
Yeah. The ice isn't gonna freeze anymore. The ground's not gonna get any harder. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But those are my favorite days. Like, since I work outside, 20 degrees and sunny. Those are my favorite days. Yeah. No mud. Everything's clean. It is cold, but
oh, that's true.
Yeah, March. Yeah. That's the worst. That freeze thaw going back and forth thing. That's the worst.
Because most people don't know. Most people that are watching don't know that you ferry dogs around.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You wouldn't know that from my screen name, but
small business owner who takes care of everybody's dogs.
Yeah, I do off leash hikes specifically. We just go around, pick everyone up, and do like a big off leash hike, and then drop everyone off. So yeah, a lot of it's driving the dogs around. The easy part of my day is that hike in the middle.
Yeah, it's true. The
Yeah.
hard part is like going house to house to house, and then like figuring out like what key opens this house. Like, oh, what, you know, where's the? They didn't put the leash out. Like, what the hell?
You wouldn't believe the janky locks people like live with. It's like, this is a broken lock, and you've had it for 2 years. Like, you wouldn't believe the shenanigans of just getting in and out of people's houses. Never mind like dealing with them and their dog.
Oh, let me tell you something. I've been to a lot of people's houses, and
Yeah.
I definitely have done the like, you live like this, you know.
Yeah.
I've definitely done that.
Yeah.
I've also done the like, you know, people have had me come over because they're like, hey, yeah, I think I need like a quick repair on my gate, you know, or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll fit that in someday and come over and take a look at it. And it's like, the gate is so wood rotten, like there's nothing to be saved, you know. It's like, we're gonna need to rebuild the whole fence. Like, this is going to be like, you know, $8,000 to replace your fence back here and build a new gate and everything. It's like, oh, I can't do that. Can you just screw it back together? You know, it's like, it's rotten. There's no, I could put a screw in there and then it will just fall apart next week, and then you'll be mad at me, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah, you're just like, what is going on? What?
I had a client who's like, their doorknob, like the little connecting thing, like the little bolts that hold like one side of the doorknob to the other, just were like totally stripped or something. So I just like gingerly use their door. Either that or like the doorknob would come off of my hand every time. They lived like that for like a year.
And you know that they're dealing with it the same way you are, right?
Right.
You know that they're like, oh, they know. Like, they know it's screwed up. It's like the smoke alarm going off, you know? Like the battery.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, that chirp
Yeah.
that goes off every 60 seconds, and you literally have to ask people, like, is your brain broken? Is it broken? Like, the thing that will tell you if the house is on fire is making noise right now. Why are you not doing something about that? That's that old Adam Carolla thing. Like, he would lose his mind on people on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But apparently now Adam Carolla is like a hyper conservative crazy person. Like, he goes on shows with like Ben Shapiro and stuff now because he thinks
No
that's
way.
good. Yeah.
I haven't heard any. I used to listen to his podcast like a few years back, but then it was like so involved. The whole podcast was like an inside joke, but like the inside joke version of a conversation. There's like, you had to listen to the last like 800 hours of it to understand even what they were talking about. So that was the last I heard from him, and he sounded kind of crazy then. So I guess I'm not shocked. But
It's not shocking. It's weird because, and I thought about this a while ago, and whether or not I'm correct is up for debate. But there comes a point where certain people like hit a level of success from doing shocking things that the only thing that they have left to do is just to continue on that path of shocking people, which just puts them so far off the map from a normal person, right? You know, it's like Adam Carolla is like going on these tirades about homeless people in LA, right? And it's like his tirade is that like the mayor isn't doing enough to get rid of these homeless people, right? And like his plan is like, just hire a bunch of cops and make them go away. And you're like, that's not how this world works, dude. But maybe somebody like Adam Carolla that has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of the barter coupons that I was talking about earlier, maybe could get off his ass and get off of his pomposity and start a program to start helping some of the homeless people down there, and maybe other people could contribute to it. But instead, It's like, I'm going to promote my show by saying that all homeless people are bad and cops should hit them over the head with a stick, you know, and you're like, that's okay, super rich guy. Can you stop that?
Where are they,
like,
and like, where are they going to go? There's no way. And
Yeah.
that goes from like everything from like homeless people to like your garbage. It goes away, but there's no away. It just goes somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
it's just
you
occupying
know,
space somewhere else.
yeah. So you got to like deal with it properly. Whatever. But
Hmm.
I guess being a rich guy makes it easy because you don't get to see all of that like away back room kind of stuff.
Right, and there's
Um,
no repercussion, you know.
yeah.
Like there's no repercussions for a guy like that. When you're at that position where you just get to like say crazy stuff, and then it's like, well, no one ever gets to say crazy stuff back to you, or there's no one in a position that's powerful enough to say crazy stuff back to them that would make them care. So they never have to have any moment of self reflection at all, because it's just like, oh, I just go drive my $1 million car around, like, okay.
Yeah. If you're doing a podcast too, it only helps if you just like add, you get crazy people responding to your crazy stuff, like whatever. That only helps you, I guess, even though
Right.
it makes you look crazy. But that's the idea.
Yeah, it just helps your own image and your income. It's like the YouTube videos that say, where you see the thumbnail and the title and it's like, "All my fish are dead," and you're like I don't know if I should click on this video.
Yeah.
Man. And then you have to like make some kind of personal choice on whether or not you're going to contribute to the whoever's doing that, they're going to do it again, you know, because it's like, oh, I got positive results from being a jackass, like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of clickbaity stuff, and like I get like in my app, I get like the YouTube stories that are suggested, and they're all like the most like clickbait of all time. It's like dog farted and scares itself. It just like the dumbest stuff. It apparently works. Anytime on any social media, if I click on anything that's like fail videos or something that there's like a million of, the algorithm's like, oh, no problem, we got tons of this for you, but and they just my thing just gets flooded with all this like crap I don't want.
yeah, but I mean, that's the weird thing is like they do it because it gets results for them, right? And it's a selfish result. The result is I do outlandish things, I get more money, right? And it's like, um, I mentioned Logan Paul being a douche earlier in the show here, and
Yeah.
but as a perfect example, like he went to what is commonly referred to, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the forest in Japan where unfortunately people have a tendency to commit suicide there, um, and he just went and filmed it and was like laughing at somebody who committed suicide, and like the thing is, you would think that guy would get ostracized, that guy would get in trouble or whatever. But the reality is like just a bunch of people told him he was stupid and he made more money,
Yeah.
you know?
That's kind of gross, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, well, that guy should get in some form of trouble. And it's like, but he doesn't get in trouble. He makes more money. That's the trouble. The trouble that he gets into is that he ends up making more money.
Yeah.
And that, it's like, how do you battle back against that? Because, people like Ben Shapiro or whatever would start considering themselves like, we're being silenced by the liberals, and it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I don't, no one's trying to silence anybody here, but there needs to be some form of, how do we stop that from being exposed to people that don't want to be exposed to it, right? And that's always been like the one thing that I've agreed with on things like, adult materials, like adult magazines, right? There was always like a separate area of the store that you had to go into. Like there's I don't know if you're old enough, but when I was a kid, you'd go to like a store that had adult magazines in the back, and there was like a bead curtain that you had to go through, and like it would alert whoever was operating the store to be like, are you 18 years of age? Like there was like a literal human obstructing you from like interacting with that kind of craziness, but yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing about this day and age, and I don't have an answer for it other than the like I don't want to watch that crap, but also, you know, when you're one of 50 million people watching something, it's like I guess if you don't watch it, does that make them not do it? Yeah. So
Yeah, speaking of the back room, there's actually in Boston's Chinatown. There's a little store it's half fish and
mhm.
half adult content, if you know what I'm saying. So like the front of the store is a
Oh my
fish store,
god.
and then you walk through the back into the little curtain, and it's like just a straight up porn store.
Oh my god. I
Yeah, and
I only want to go to that just because of the novelty. Like
yeah, yeah, that's why I went there. They have mostly saltwater stuff, so I got no business being in there. But
yeah, the unfortunate thing is that like we had a store here that was the most insane store, and I attribute it to being like the if you've ever seen Gremlins, right?
yeah,
If you've ever seen the movie Gremlins, when the young kid, he goes to this shop in Chinatown that it's like the darkest, dankest, like sketchiest shop, and that's where he buys the mogwai, right?
yeah.
Um, we had a fish store that was like a dirtier, dingier replica of that.
I
And
remember you guys talking about that on Real Fish Talk, I think.
yeah, and it was in Chinatown too. Like our Chinatown is called the International District. Um,
See.
so to other people that are out of the realm of where I live, if I say the International District, they don't know what I'm talking about. So we call it International District. It was renamed from Chinatown because it was like, yeah, the Vietnamese people live here. You know, white people
Yep.
live here. Whatever. It's just that they renamed it to the International District, which seems much more appropriate in my mind. But you know, I'm like one of those libtards or whatever. You know. Um, but yeah, it was basically in that part of town, and he was basically had this shop that was just like the sketchiest shop, and the only reason it was there is because it had been there forever, right? It had just been there for years and years and years, and there was like no worldly reason for anybody in a position to tell them to stop doing the store. Right? There was nothing that they could say to stop doing the store. So he just kept running it, and it was like bizarro world in there.
I
Like
think I remember you guys talking about that Real Fish Talk. He had like a tank like on a table that was like balanced by books.
yeah, like soggy books, like soggy books. These weren't like nice. These weren't like nice leather bound books. These were like paperback, Daniel Steele, romance novels. You know what I mean? Like just jammed under there and wet and just like being compressed. And like, oh, you better get yourself another paperback and stuff it under that leg there because it's getting squished.
Yeah.
But he did have some cool goldfish there. You know, I mean, that's basically the only cool thing he had there. But the guy had like the hookup with wherever he was getting his goldfish from. But you know, most every store in the U.S. isn't breeding or anything like that. So I'm rarely am I really that impressed by a store in the States.
Yeah. I'm lucky over here. I'm lucky to have any store. I really can't complain. There's like, I think there's like 4 within like a reasonable driving distance of me.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being that weird half hybrid store.
Oh yeah.
Most of them are all right though. We have the few we have are like pretty big, so there's like a decent selection, but there's nothing crazy going on. If you want something rare, you got to get it online.
Yeah, and that's I mean that's just a nature of that's a nature of the year that we're living in is like there's going to be less and less local stores. I mean there's just less market for. There's definitely less market for a wide. Like a wide product type store, you know what I mean? Like a saltwater and a freshwater store. Like I don't know. But anybody that's out there that's wanting or thinking about opening up some kind of retail space or something like that, I think I would first integrate your online stuff. figure out all of your online things before you even do the retail side of it. But when you do your retail side of it, I think targeted demographic is a much better idea. Like when I think I was in Lansing, Michigan or something. I think I was in Michigan. Maybe it was Wisconsin. I don't know. One of those up there states. And we stopped by a store that was strictly like a Planet Aquarium store. Like that's all they did was plants and then fish kind of surrounding the Planet Aquarium. And they really had like, 3 different tanks. They had like 2 different light options, 2 different filter options. They had some food. They had live plants. They had probably, I want to say like 20 tanks with fish, but nothing like out of this world. They had some display tanks that were running, and it was like pretty focused. And I think that's going to be that's going to be the way if somebody wants to open a store at some point in time. Is going to be the best option moving forward. Fish Tank Barn says it was Watercolors in Grand Rapids. Watercolors is like a bigger store than the one that I'm talking about. I can't remember. I think Vicky and I were in Wisconsin. But I think I have video from Watercolors. Watercolors was like a little bit bigger, and they had a breeding, they had a big breeding facility underneath the building. So it was like 2 floors, cool. And they had their breeding facility was in the basement, which wasn't really for customers. We were allowed to go down there because we were like, these guys are from YouTube. Like, oh, cool. And I think we had like local fish club guys with us and stuff. So that store was a little bit big, and I think it's a small store realistically. If you went into it as a person, you'd be like, oh, this isn't that much. But I think that that store was kind of overreaching. They're kind of overreaching the advice I could give somebody if they wanted to start a store now.
Yeah.
Just with, just the electricity to run all of that is going to add up,
Yeah. Yeah, the main store around here does they try to do everything. They do it's like maybe like 60-40 freshwater, saltwater, and then they just have like all the products. And they just moved their store to like a bigger location right before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And now they can only have like 10 people in the store at a time too. Like I'm praying they hang on because they're awesome. I like them. I like the people that run it a lot.
Yeah.
The rest of the stores around here, they're just like, it's like a room with some fish in it. And like,
right.
That's about it. And there's like, we have fish. If you don't want these ones, that's too bad.
Yeah. Myrtle Singh says, in my area, I had a freshwater, saltwater store that also had a seafood restaurant in the front. Dine in the front and buy your fish in the back. 3 years ago, developers bought the plaza and they closed. I can honestly give this advice to anybody that wants to open a restaurant. Do not open a restaurant that is also something else. You are staring down the barrel of a monumental time and financial commitment, and you cannot be the guy who's running a hot dog stand and a barber shop or whatever. If you have a food establishment, you should be focusing on the minimum amount of entrees, appetizers, and the menu requirements for your area. So if you are required in your area to have 5 entrees and 3 appetizers and 2 desserts, that's it. That's your menu. And if those items suck and you can't figure out how to make those items into something that people want to eat with their mouth hole, don't open a restaurant. And certainly do not open a restaurant that is also something else. It's like, we build decks and pizza. It's like,
it also makes me suspect of the food. It's like,
yeah,
you're making decks and pizza. It's like, how good is that pizza?
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
One or the other will put the other one out of business. It's like, yeah, if you're building decks, then build decks. Like if those are, if you build good porches and patios and decks and stuff, then build decks. If you make good pizza, open a pizza place. Do not open them at the same time in the same location. I don't
Right.
I don't care how complimentary you think the things are. Even a brewery pizza place, don't do that. Open a brewery or a pizza place. If you're making pizza, make pizza, sell beers, sure. Buy beers in cans and bottles and sell them to people. Like, if they want those things, you have spent basically zero money. You will retail sell them at a markup, and they don't really expire. I mean, they do have an expiration date, but they don't really expire. Whereas the brewery will be a giant money pit because you're too busy screwing around with your pizzas. Yeah. All right. Oh, crap. It's 1:35. All right.
Just gonna say, yeah.
We got to end the show. We're at the end of the show, and people said it was pretty good. They liked the call-in thing. I like the call-in thing, too. So we're going to keep working out the kinks with the Discord. If you want to call in, you can become a member on Patreon, or you can become a member on YouTube and get access to the Discord. And, hell, you'll be able to call in on the show. And even if you want to troll me and tell me I'm a big douchey dummy dum-dum, you could do that, too. I'm more than welcome to hear people's concerns and complaints. But we also don't we don't like to hear frankly the sounds of concerned complaining without helping fund the show. So you know what I mean, right? That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Zombie Drummer called in. He's a fan. ADK Aquatics was wondering who it was. I'm introducing the taking calls off of Discord, and we're seeing how well it works. And I think it worked pretty good. Dave was our first caller, and I'm gonna say Zombie Drummer, even though I don't know.
Say it. It's my name's Ryan.
Can I
I'll
say
say
Ryan? Okay, all right. So Ryan called in, and Dave called in. We got both Ryan and Dave on a Friday show, October 9er, the 10/9/2020. 10/9/2020. That's today. Let's give a quick shout out to our super chatters of the day. One was Rumbust and something else. Oh my God, it works on YouTube again. Here we go. Rumbust, Tony Franzen, Mikey Fishy, and the Fish Tank Barn, all of our super chatters of the day. We got no new members, so we can't even update any of that. We got no new patrons on the day, so I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to talk to Ryan for a minute, because you guys are going to be gone. You guys are going to be gone, baby.
Can't hear over here. I got YouTube muted, but I can't hear the outro music. I can't hear it here. There we go. I can hear it a little bit. Yeah.